Can you answer the question or not? If you can answer the question, kindly answer. What are the different types of research we have already discussed in the class? Otherwise, I have to remove you from the classroom. Is my voice coming properly? Okay, I have to remove him from the classroom. See, I am removing those from the classroom which are not attending the lecture or who are not able to answer the question that I am asking. So if anyone can listen my voice, kindly tell me, am I audible or not?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so better whatever the questions I'm asking, answer right now. Otherwise, I have to remove you from the classroom. I can see a lot of messages in the WhatsApp group. So you should, I think, better try to connect because I have not seen anyone in the waiting room. So yeah, I think probably you trying with some other link or I don't know what's the problem. So now I'm starting today's class. I have asked few questions in the beginning of the class and few could not answer them. So that's why I have removed them from the class. Like Salma or many ones who could not answer the question, that's why I have removed them from the classroom. So coming to the today's topic, that is inductive and deductive reasoning, that is for theory building. And you know that the types of research, that the question that I have asked, basically we have two types: fundamental research and applied research, right? And the theory building is the process that we deal in the case of fundamental research. So how we define it is, this is the process of building a statement of concepts and their interrelationships that show how or why a phenomenon occurs. Right. So while doing that, we have different ways of means going for that. And there are two main strategies. The first one is inductive, and the second one is deductive. We'll try to learn these two strategies with the help of some examples. So inductive research approach. When there is little to no existing literature, means you have very little literature, either you have very little literature or you don't have any literature on a topic, it is common to perform inductive research because there is no theory to test. Remember, when we don't have any literature or we have only very little literature with respect to a topic, then what type of approach we have to follow? We have to follow inductive research approach because there is no theory to test. To do so, we have to cross three stages. The first one is observation. Here I am going to discuss this stage with some examples. Like in the case of observation, I have cited these three examples, like a low-cost airline flight is delayed. This is the observation you have observed. Okay, a low-cost airline flight is delayed. Next example, dogs A and B have place. Then next example, elephants depend on water to exist. These are the three examples, or you can say that some three observations that we have made. This means observation is the first stage of inductive research. Second, observe a pattern. Another 20 flights from low-cost airlines are delayed. Okay, first observation you had made is that a low-cost airline flight is delayed. Now, second, you have seen that you have observed a pattern. And what is the pattern here? The pattern here is the low-cost airlines. So another 20 flights from low-cost airlines are delayed This is the kind of pattern that you have found from the first observations. Second observation leads you to the pattern that all observed dogs have fleas. Third example or third observation leads you to discover the pattern that all observed animals depend on water to exist. So in the second stage, that is observe a pattern, what you have got are some patterns from the observation that you have made at the first stage of this inductive research, right? Then the third stage. So based on that pattern, you go for developing a theory. So the third stage is develop a theory. Low-cost airlines always have delays. This type of theory, or this is the theory that you can frame from the first observation pattern. Second theory from the second observation pattern is that all dogs have fleas. Third theory, that is all biological life depends on water to exist. So these are the three theories that you have developed from the three patterns that you have found at the stage 2 of this inductive research. So I'm repeating again, there are three stages of inductive research. First one is the observation. Second is observe a pattern. Third is develop a theory. Okay, so it looks simple, but there are some limitations with respect to an inductive approach. A conclusion drawn on the basis of an inductive method can never be proven, but it can be invalidated. Remember, there is a term that I have used in, I think, second of my research methodology lectures, that is validation. Validation of your proposed approach or validation of any research theory is very important, right? So now, in this case, what is the limitation is that any conclusion that you have drawn with the help of inductive method, it cannot be 100% proven. But the thing is that it can be easily invalidated. So what actually it tries to mean that you cannot rely on that theory that is being derived from the inductive method. It cannot rely, means you cannot 100% rely. I'm not saying that this is 100% false, but there may be some exception out from that theory. Like example, you observe 1,000 flights from low cost airlines. All of them experience a delay. That is okay. That may happen, which is in line with your proposed theory. What was our proposed theory? Our proposed theory was that low-cost airlines always have delays, right? You guys can see my screen and my voice is audible to you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you. So that theory that all low-cost airlines always have delays, that is okay because from 1,000 flights, you have observed that thing. But what happened if the 1,001th flight is not delayed or it gets not delayed? You cannot prove that, right? So there is a suggestion when you are performing an inductive approach or inductive research that you take your data set larger. Okay, because in that case, there may be, you can say that your result is or your conclusion is more reliable. So from this inductive research approach, and this part, there may be many MCQs that may come in the exam. But if you got the concept, then that is not a problem for you to solve that. Now I'm coming to deductive research approach. We have seen that when there is no theory, then you go for what? Inductive research. Now, of course, opposite is the case of deductive research approach. When conducting deductive research, you always start with a theory. And that theory is the result of some kind of inductive research, because you see that in the case of inductive research, what you are trying to do, you try to find out the general pattern, right? And that is nothing but a kind of theory, right? So from the inductive research output, you got a theory. Now, for conducting a deductive research, you start with that theory. Reasoning deductively means you try to test those theories. So we can conclude that if there is no theory, can you perform deductive research? If I ask all of you, simple question, that if there is no theory, can you perform deductive research? The
No,
answer
sir.
is
No, sir.
no.
No.
Good. Because deductive research
No.
relies on the theory that is the output of inductive research. Now, let's see the stages involved in a deductive research approach with some examples. First stage, obviously, we start with an existing theory. Let's take the previous examples for this again. And the example is low-cost airlines always have delays. Then second theory that we have seen, all dogs have fleas. And the third, all biological life depends on water to exist. These are the three theories that we have found or from our inductive research, right? We have started with these theories. Then next stage is that formulate a hypothesis based on existing theory. I discussed what does it exactly mean by hypothesis in one of my lectures, or you can simply consider this a kind of assumption, right? Now, if passengers fly with a low-cost airline, then they will always experience delays. This is the hypothesis that we have considered for this particular theory. Now you can see that what is the pattern of a hypothesis, right? How we formulate a hypothesis. It kind of if and then structure. Means if these things happen, then what would happen? So for the first theory, that is low-cost airlines always have delays, we have formulated a hypothesis like if passengers fly with a low-cost airline, then they will always experience delay. Then the next hypothesis is all pet dogs in my apartment building have fleas. Then the third one similarly will be all land mammals depend on water to exist. So let's take these three theories, and so at the stage 2, we have formulated these theories based on the existing, this hypothesis, based on the existing theories. Now third, obviously I told you whenever we go for checking or testing our hypothesis, what we need data, right? We need a collection of data, or you can say that a very good amount of data, or big, or you can say without data, without that sufficient amount of data, you cannot go for testing this hypothesis. So this is the very important stage that you have to collect data to test the hypothesis. So for the first one, what we have to do, we have to collect flight data of low-cost airlines. Then the second, test all dogs in the buildings for fleas. And the third, study all land mammal species to see if they depend on water or not. So this data you have to collect. Now, if you have collected data and you have checked it, then the next thing is that you need to analyze the result, or last stage is the analyze results. Does the data reject or support the hypothesis? So what type of scenario we may face, like suppose 5 out of 100 flights of low-cost airlines are not delayed. Then question is that can we accept the hypothesis? Answer is big no. Even one is, if suppose not supporting, then we cannot say that this will be happening in general, right? So if 5 of 100 flights of low-cost airlines are not delayed, so the outcome is that reject the hypothesis. What was our hypothesis? Our hypothesis is the passenger flights with a low-cost airline, they will always experience delays. So we have to reject that hypothesis. Then 10 out of 20 dogs did not have fleas, so reject hypothesis. Then all land mammal species depend on water. You have seen that this is the all. So we have to support this. Just a minute. Hello. Oh, my class that is okay. কিবা আসলে নি কোন 5টা লাগে আছে ক্লাস অকমান দেৰিকে আহি আছো হা মই ক্লাছটো শেষ কৰি পেলাই আহি আছো sorry for that. So all land mammal species depend on water. So if this thing means if you can see that this is happening for all, so obviously we'll support that hypothesis. So these 3 scenarios you have seen, and you have seen that if at least 1 or 2 is not obeying with that, then we are just rejecting that hypothesis. And if all are satisfied, then we can support the hypothesis. Now, these are the 4 stages of deductive research. Let's see what are the limitations of a deductive research. The conclusions of deductive reasoning can only be true if all the premises set in the inductive study are true and the terms are clear. See, we have seen a new term here, premises. Like from the examples, let me give you an idea what is exactly a premises. Like, see, all dogs have fleas. So it's a premise. Suppose Beno is a dog, that is again a premise. So from these two, what we can infer that Beno has fleas. This is the conclusion. So what we have just said that this conclusion is true only if all the premises are true. Suppose Beno is not a dog, then can conclusion this be means true? No. Okay. Now, based on the premises, we have seen that conclusion must be true in this case because all the premises are true. However, if the first premise turns out to be false, then the conclusion that Beno has fleas cannot be relied upon. That's what I just discussed. Now, with this, we have finished the last part of your unit 1. And today, as per the questions, I have given you 2 questions here. First one is differentiate between inductive and deductive research. You can easily do that if you got the idea behind it. Then explain any one strategy for the theory building process. These are the 2 questions for today's lecture. Okay. So with this, I'm ending today's lecture, and let me come to the